Morning, market chameleons. Thanks for joining us for another pre-market show on election day. D, how you doing?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Awesome. Hey, thanks for joining us, everyone. If you're on the YouTube chat, put any questions in there. If you're new, we'll try to get to them. I saw the goat farmer down in Texas has a question. We'll try to get to it. But before we get started, D, you want to get to the disclaimer?
Yep. So before we get started, first, thanks everyone for joining us. Keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not registered investment advisors. We're not broker dealers. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need professional help, call your broker. That's what they're there for. They should be able to help answer your questions, provide you with guidance. Here's the disclaimer. And with that, I guess we could get started.
Excellent. Also, at anyone who missed the show yesterday, it is obviously live on the YouTube. It's not live, but it's sitting on the YouTube channel. But I also put a link at the start of the show to last night's webinar. Well received, Dima. Great job as always.
Thank you, Will. Thanks. So ready to go?
Let's roll.
Okay. I'm going to start out kind of quickly. We'll go look through what's going on in the pre-market hours. I'm also going to show you guys a couple ways that you could actually look up some pre-market stuff in your watch list and on the news scanner. I don't know if I did that before, so I'm going to try to go over that today. We'll take a look at what's going on in the earnings front. And if we have time, maybe we'll pick a screener and look for some ideas. And I think, well, you mentioned you had some questions coming up in the chat. So let's leave some room and try to answer some of those questions that were popping up prior to the show.
Perfect.
So here's the, as usual, if you guys are joining us for the first time, this is the pre-market report. And these are stocks that are actively trading in the pre-market hours before the market opens. We have the most active stocks, biggest percentage gainers, and biggest percentage decliners. Let's take a look first what's going on in stocks that are higher market cap stocks. I'm going to use this filter here for market cap, and I'm going to choose market stocks whose market cap is above 20 billion. So these are $20 billion market cap or higher. So we got Wayfair. They reported earnings. That looks like that's what these little alerts are, earnings. This is the news if you hover over it. They're up 5.9% in the pre-market hours. Oops, just close that real quick. BCS up 5.1%. Race, that's Ferrari, up 4.5%. Let me just take a look here. So 63 stocks made our percentage gainers list. 6 are percentage decliners list in that group of 20 billion market cap or higher. So right now looks like that's more bullish than bearish for the market, at least. Let's take a look at actually race. This is Ferrari. Is that correct, Will?
Yes.
I think. Yeah. So they reported earnings. They're up 4.5% in the pre-market hours. As you can see here, it's a little bit choppy, so it doesn't look like there's a lot of shares trading hands. 15,000 so far. I'm going to take a look at their earnings history. Here's how they tended to perform around earnings. These are the historical earnings dates in the last 12 quarters. This is the historical opening gap moves. So we got half the time it was higher, half the time lower for an average gain of 1.3%. Average move up or down in the morning, 2.5% at the open, which today 4.5%. So that's above what we see on average. The high move is 6.5% in Ferrari. That's over here on November 4th. After the open, from the open to the high, average move was 2.9%. From the open to the low, average move was negative 2.1%. From the open to the close, tended to go up a little bit more often than down. 58% of the time it finished higher, 42% finished lower for an average gain of 0.7%. The reason I brought this up as well is I wanted to take a look at this group because I know that this group in general, we've been seeing some stocks popping here, right? Especially the electrical vehicles. So I went to similar stocks here. This is the auto manufacturing group. So we'll see Tesla in here. There you go. And I just wanted to see how Ferrari compared to the rest of the group. So in the last 6 months, they're up 22% versus the group 62%. Last year, they're up 14%. The rest of the group actually is down 3.1%. Remember, it has like other stocks in here, General Motors, Ford, all these other companies. And I'm just going to take a look really quickly from fundamentals standpoint. So we see here, Ferrari, their price to sales ratio, 8.72. So they're trading almost 9 times their revenues versus the rest of the group, 7.94. Price to book, 29 versus the rest of the group, 3.2. Here, this is where they do, I think, really well. Their gross margins, 51% versus the rest of the group, 12.5%. So they got like some pretty high margins there. And we see revenue growth, 6.4%. And what's that? Net income growth, 5 years, 21%. So at least over here, they're doing pretty good relative to the rest of the group, right? On the growth and margins area. So just wanted to show really quickly how to look at that from similar stocks perspective and the performance within that group. I think actually, and there's another question here I'm going to come back to. I think I was reading Jake. He was asking about how do we calculate the opening, the percentage moves from the opening into the high to the low. Is that correct?
Could be.
That's the other reason. All right. So this question actually came up from another group looking at this. Now, when stocks open in the morning, there's actually the way our market is structured is we have a lot of different stock exchanges. So we have NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, ARCA, Amex. We got a bunch of different stock exchanges. These stock exchanges, after the opening, and then all of them go through an opening rotation, what happens is they're subject to these Reg NMS rules. In other words, they cannot trade through themselves. They cannot trade through each other. So any orders they get, they're required to give you the best national best bid or national best offer. We call them like the NBBO. At the opening, they all have their own opening rotation. So ARCA could open before NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange. They have their own books that they have to reconcile and come up with an opening price. Then after that, they put out their quotes, right? So they put a bid and an offer. Now, sometimes you'll see an opening price where, one exchange opens 100 shares, let's say at $100, and then another exchange will open up, 10,000 shares at 101, right? So what is the real opening price? You kind of have to figure out where is it really trading, because if 100 shares traded at one price and then all these other shares trade like 1% higher, realistically that 100 shares you wouldn't most likely get that price anyway. So when we look at the opening price, you kind of have to come up with a decision. What do you use? So what we do is we look at the first 1 minute VWAP, so where there's actual trading going on. So these are trades within NBBO quotes. We look at that minute VWAP and determine from there where the opening price is, where you're most likely going to get executed. Exactly. So think of it this way. Sometimes you'll see 100 shares open. You could see 50 shares open somewhere or whatever. We don't consider that as a real opening price unless there's more shares being traded at those prices. From the open to the high, very similar. We use VWAPs because what could happen is during the day. Here, let me open this up. So during the day, you get these. We have an high low. So over here, you have a high price and a low. Sorry, this is a low price and a high price. So this is just determined by one trade at one price. In other words, you could have a million shares of trading, let's say $182. And then all of a sudden one trade, whatever it is, 100 shares escapes, goes to 183.78, then back down to 182. So realistically, you're probably not going to get that price if 100 shares out of millions just traded. So we use the high. When we go to the open to the high, open to the low, we use 1 minute VWAPs. In other words, we take a volume weighted average price, the highest in 1 minute, and we use that as the most likely highest price you would have been able to get that day. Same thing to the open to the low. Hopefully that, I think that was the question that was being asked by Jake. Hopefully that helps answer. So that's how we determine, it's an algorithm and it's based on the volume traded around that price.
Well,
And
just so you know, Jake says this is great info, D Money. I'm listening carefully. So you got
awesome. It. Thanks. Good. And the whole idea there is you don't let some kind of outlier skew things. That's the idea. Having said that, let's move on really quickly. Now, you could also, in this report, you could scan this entire report just by your watch list. I don't know if people know that, but you could just select and say, just show me stuff in my watch list. This way, you just see stocks that are moving in a pre-market that are in one of your watch lists. Another thing you could do from here, I'm going to go to the main page. I'm not sure if people are using this or even know about this, but if you're on the news scanner here, you could, these are stocks, that are reporting, issuing press releases, right? And these are a list of symbols with press releases. And let's say you just want to see stocks that are, hold on, I have to move this over here. Let's say you want to see stocks that are, where is that? In my watch list over here. You could scan this, also just stocks in my watch list. You could do all. This way, you could just see news coming out for stocks in your watch list. Let's say you want to switch this and see what's actually moving in a pre-market. So down here, I'm going to switch this to pre-market mode. Click over here. These are the pre-market changes. So these are stocks that are in my watch list, have some kind of news on it, and these are the pre-market moves. And then you could sort by this. Really quickly, if you're following certain stocks in your watch list, these are all my watch lists. If you, let's say, big data watch lists, so here, Microsoft and Amazon in my big data, this is what they're doing. This is the related news coming out in the morning. So really quickly, to find things that you're following that have news and are moving in a pre-market hours. Not sure if people are using this, so wanted to give an example. Some are not. Another way you could do it is if I have it set to pre-market movers. Let's say you're looking for a specific situation. Maybe you have ideas of how to scan for opportunities, stocks that are moving with certain related news. Like, so for example, maybe there's some stocks that are up. I'm just throwing out an idea as I'm going. Let's say some stocks that are up, they had some good news, but at the same time, they're saying, well, we're gonna issue more stock. We're gonna have a secondary, and that will weigh on the stock, right? So sometimes people are missing it or not reading that news. But if you're issuing a secondary, you're basically diluting your shareholders, right? So let's take a look here. I'm gonna say keyword, look for anything that reported secondary offering. And this is going to scan the news. Let me just make sure these are not right. This is going to scan all the press releases and the body of the press releases. So not just that it's inside the title, but it could be within the body of the press release. So over here, MDLX, I don't see it in the title. If I click on it, just click on the headline, and if you scan through, somewhere in there, it'll be highlighted that, let me see if I could find it. This happens to be a very big article. So there should be highlighting green. I think I just missed it. Here, secondary offering. So you could jump to it and read about it. Again, when you're scanning, by a keyword. It's going to look through not just the title, but the body of the press release, and it'll filter it out for you this way. Let me take out, you could also do negative keywords. So if you want to exclude some keywords, like for example, class action lawsuits, you're not interested in that, you could exclude it and type it in here. Let me release that. Right now I have it on pre-market movers. If you just wanted to look at pre-market movers that have news, you could also use like maybe market cap and just sort by biggest movers. Here's like bearish movers. I'm going to click on here. This will look at stocks that are down in the pre-market. Bullish movers, you can look for stocks that are up in a pre-market. Recently viewed, you can take a look at stocks that you just recently tried to research. So all this is available to you, very powerful tool, and really quickly you could home in on stocks that are moving and on the related news. So hopefully this helps. Don't, maybe I'll start using it in the morning to show a couple more examples, but you have it right there at your disposal. And obviously you could use that during the day as well, not just pre-market, but even during the day.
Chameleons love that feature, D.
Oh, awesome. Let's take a look. We got 15 minutes left.
Listen, Goat Roper asked earlier, and there was a lot of chit chat. Could you just look at that straddle real quick in Wells Fargo?
Okay, what was it again?
It was the deck 11 at the money. It was a 22 straddle.
Wells Fargo, WFC.
Yeah. Actually, now that I see it, maybe he's talking about the 22-21 strangle. Because it looks like a big volume trade. Maybe that's why he's looking at it. Because he did say 22 or 21, but he didn't say strangle. Now that I'm looking at it, there's some big option volume in the call and the puts. So maybe it was the strangle he wanted to get your opinion on.
Which December 11th?
Yeah. I just brought it up on my options chain as well.
Okay. And so December 11th, what's the question? This one, the 70,000.
Yeah, well, I see now he asked for the straddle, but I'm assuming he's saying this 22 because he said 22-21 straddle. I thought he was saying 22 or 21, but now that I see it, there's a big options trade took place in the puts and the calls. So maybe he's looking at that strangle, the 22-21.
All right. So let me show you what I'm doing here. Right now we're on the options chain. And the question was, we're on Wells Fargo. I clicked on the options chain here and we went to December 11th expiration. So you could see here in December 11th expiration, 140,000 contracts traded, which out of all these expirations, that's the highest volume in any one expiration. And usually you're going to see the highest volumes in the front months, right? So this one, December 11th, that's something interesting. Here we see, once we click to the December 11th expiration, and you could use the up here, you see where I'm hovering over, it says spot price, 1 standard deviation, most active call or put. If you click on most active call or put, it'll highlight the strikes. So we see here on the 22 line, this is the most active call, and the 21 line, this is the most active put. 70,000 trade on each one. So the question is, like, what do we think happened here? I'm going to click on this volume and it'll pop up the time in sales. So right now I'm looking on the time in sales on the call. December 11th call over here. We see that this yesterday, it's shown the market data. Yesterday, this call closed out. This is the bid, 99 cents, offer 109. This was, from October 30th. Yesterday closed 122, 128. So the call price was up. We see implied volatility in that option was up and the stock was up. Down here, you have a list. This is a list of the time in sales, everything that was trading on that option. Okay, and I'm going to sort here by quantity. So we have the time here, the quantity. This is the price that this one contract's traded. This is the notional value, so $125, right? One contract for $1.25 would equal to $125. This was the bid. of the option at the time of the trade. This is the ask. So $1.25 bid, $1.28 ask. So if this traded at $1.25, our guess most likely that was just somebody selling that option because it traded on a bid. This is the implied volatility of the trade in that option. This is where the stock was at the time of this trade. So when this traded at $1.25, the stock was $21.87. This is the exchange it traded on, and this is the trade condition. Okay. I know I've been getting emails to explain these as I'm going through. I'm going to sort these right here by quantity. All these are sortable. So I'm going to sort this by quantity, and we see that 11:15, 43 a.m., 70,000 contracts traded in this call, December 11th, 22 call, for $1.17. This is the notional value here of this trade, which is, what is that? 8,190,000.
That is what it is, my friend.
Right. This is what the market was at the time, $1.16, $1.22. So it looks like it traded in between, closer to the bid. This is the implied volatility. This is where the stop was, 21.80. It traded on the ARC exchange. And this is a multi-leg. So multi-leg means that there's another option tied to this, another one or more options tied with this trade. Okay, so that's what multi-leg is, like a spread, a straddle, a strangle. So we see here this traded at 117 at 11:15:43, and right now we could kind of tell that this was the other part of the leg just because of the volume. I'm going to close, and another thing interesting here, you have the summary statistics down here, and this is the total number of trades in this on this December 22 call. 31 total trades. The total volume is 70,337. So we see most of it is this one trade. The total notional value of all the trades on this call is 8,232,108. The other interesting thing is before yesterday's trade, at the opening, before they started trading, there's only 18 contracts open interest. So this looks like a new position, right? Because if only 18 contracts were there, open interest prior to the opening of the trading, this would be a new position. It wouldn't be closing because you don't have that many contracts to close. This is the VWAP price, volume weighted average price of all the options that traded on the day. This is the highest price that the options traded, $1.31. So we could sort it here. Here's $1.31 by price that traded at 3:32. This is in Eastern time. 3:32 and 16 seconds. It was only one contract, $1.31, but you see a couple one lots trading at $1.31. The lowest price it traded is $1.04. So you could see here I'm sorting by price. $1.04 traded at 10.10. 20 lot 104, 1 lot 104, 930. The last price, that's by time. Hold on. All right, I just broke it. That was the last price, 120, 125. I'm not sure why my thing just broke there. Let me close this and see the other side of this trade. So this is on 221.
So D, do you think the customer was probably the seller of that, and that the floor took the other side? What's your opinion?
So, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Here's the other side, the 70,000. You know what will be easier? I'm just going to look at all the trades here. So these are all the trades for yesterday in WFC. I'm going to sort by notional. If I sort by notional, they should come up here, right? So here it is. At the same time, December 11th, this is the call, the 22 call, traded 70,000 contracts at $1.17. So this looks like right in between. This December 11th put on the 21 line also 70,000 contracts at 105. So that is
on the
right
offer, huh?
That's very hard to say because it's
Yeah,
almost
it is.
right? This one's closer to the offer, this one's closer to the bid. So, and remember, there's always two sides of the trade, right? There is a buyer and a seller. So whatever happened here. The other thing is we don't know if, because the exchange will not tell us any long, they'll just tell us multi-leg. It used to tell you if it was a spread or not. Now it just tells you multi-leg. So they kind of disguise it. So we don't know if one of them was a buy, one of them was a sell, if they're both sell or they're both buy, right? So it could also be a risk reversal. You know, somebody could be buying the put and selling the call, which is hedging, kind of a risk reversal, hedging the downside, right, against their stock. Or somebody could be actually, you know, trying to negotiate the price and buying both or selling both. So we can't really tell from here. Just a guess. I'm just guessing from the way the prices, you know, went up. I would think that maybe somebody has a long position in there, like a really long position, and they decided that, hey, you know what, I will buy the 21 put and sell the 21 call. I don't know, they received a little bit of money for it, right? And hedge their downside, maybe into the election. Who knows? You know, we'll see.
Wow.
That's
That was a cool walkthrough. I like that. That's interesting.
And
So
that's just my guess. It could be
yeah.
completely wrong because I don't know the sides, right? I don't know. It could be both. It could have been negotiating. He just bought both, right? Or
Yeah,
sold.
no, it's interesting.
Yeah. So
Very,
that would be my guess. What was happening?
yeah, well, it's cool because it's kind of looking. It's like we're all of a sudden ESPN looking at a play from yesterday that occurred, you know, on Monday Night Football or something. And
Yeah,
then make an
yeah,
analysis.
and that's how. Yeah, that's why it just looks, because the market makers were putting it up, right? So they just said, okay, we'll sell you 70,000. This is a huge trade, obviously. So they're like, okay, you know, this is where I'll do the risk reversal. I'll sell it to you on the put on the offer 105, and I'll give you a penny better on the call, right? I'll pay 117, and you can see these are pretty wide markets, and their edge. If you take a look at the midpoint markets, right, figure it out what the midpoint market is. That's their theoretical edge on that trade.
Yeah, I hate to have taken you astray. We only have about a couple minutes left, but Pavel, who's on every morning, was asking where can he go to search for these multi-leg trades if he wanted to look at all the multi-leg trades that are going on during the day. Can we do that in the unusual option volume, or is there a way to screen that?
You could go to the option block trade screener over here. And I believe, so these are like the bigger block trades. I think you could screen for anything like 50, at least 50 contracts or higher, right? Because it doesn't include like every one lot, or you'll have like millions of trades in there. And let me just see, here's a trade condition. So you could just say, give me all the multi-legs, right?
There you go.
Trade condition. And here are the multi-legs. So in QQQ, so you would have to match up here. You'll see, you know, the symbol matches up and the time, right? And then the exchange. So then you know these are related. So that's the only way, because they don't, when they say, that's the other thing the exchanges don't do. They don't give you like an identifier how to match them up. You have to kind of do it by time, symbol, and exchange. But here it is. This is a multi-leg. This is telling us floor trade. So this was negotiated by brokers. In other words, you guys are used to just entering in orders through your broker electronically, and that most likely just goes electronically onto the floor. Bigger trades like this one was 669,000. People who trade bigger, they'll actually call up a broker, and the broker will try to negotiate a price with market makers on the floor, or the specialists, and they'll negotiate a price. They'll actually like verbally go in there and say, well, where would they be willing to do it? Will they be willing to give me a little bit better price? And so there's like a verbal exchange, and this is what a floor trader does. Okay, that's what that is indicating. Hopefully that was helpful. But
yeah, I think that was helpful for everyone, D. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're right up against the bell. Everyone, have a great trading day. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for all the questions. Hopefully we see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah, great job out there. Remember, it's election day, everyone. D, you get out there and vote. Supposedly the lines in Bucks County right now are 2.5 hours
Oh, wow.
to pull your ballot. So everyone get out there and do your civic duty. Have a great, safe trading day. D, awesome job. Thanks so much, everyone. Stay safe.